She walked into the grand marble lobby of the bank she founded, a place built on her vision, her leadership, her fight through years of struggle. Every detail in that building carried her fingerprints. Yet on that very morning, none of it seemed to matter. To the executives gathered inside, she wasn't the founder, the CEO, or the woman who turned a small idea into a financial empire. To them, she was just another face they didn't believe belonged in power. The humiliation came quickly, sharply, and publicly. But what those executives didn't know was this. In just minutes, the same woman they dismissed would shake their entire institution to its core. How did it all unfold? Her name was Alicia Morgan, a name that carried weight in the financial world, though her journey began far from boardrooms and skyscrapers. Born in a small town where opportunities were scarce, Alicia was the child who stayed up late with a borrowed textbook, the teenager who worked 2 jobs while chasing scholarships. The young woman told again and again that the world of finance wasn't built for her. But she pushed anyway. Through grit and brilliance, she earned degrees, built connections, and fought to be taken seriously in rooms where she was looked at like her. Years later, she didn't just succeed. She created something bigger than herself. A bank founded on the principles of fairness and access, especially for communities long denied both. To her clients, she was a symbol of hope. To her employees, a leader who demanded excellence yet carried compassion in every decision. Walking through those polished glass doors on that fateful morning, Alicia wasn't just a CEO. She was proof that barriers could be broken. Her institution had grown into a billion-dollar powerhouse, admired across the country, but beneath the glossy surface of respect, cracks of doubt and prejudice had always lingered, whispered in quiet corners, hidden in sideways glances. And on this day, those cracks would split wide open. What started as an ordinary leadership meeting would soon reveal the ugly truth, simmering just beneath the bank's success. Alicia had walked in to lead her team. Instead, she was about to face the kind of humiliation that cuts deeper than words. And the world inside her own bank would never look the same again. The conference room buzzed with quiet chatter as Alicia stepped inside. Sunlight poured through tall windows, glinting off polished mahogany tables. Executives in tailored suits shuffled papers and checked their watches, waiting for the meeting to begin. As the founder and CEO, this was her domain. Yet, the atmosphere shifted the moment she entered. Conversations faltered. Eyes glanced up, then quickly away. It wasn't admiration, it was doubt, the kind that lingered just a second too long. At the head of the table, cleared his throat. He was new to the institution, a man from another firm brought in to add experience. He adjusted his tie, then looked at Alicia with a faint smirk. "Excuse me," he said, his voice carrying just enough to be heard by the entire room. "Are you lost? This meeting is for senior leadership only." The words sliced through the air. A stunned silence followed. Alicia stood frozen for a breath, her title and years of sacrifice erased in an instant. Some executives avoided eye contact, pretending to flip through notes. Others exchanged quick, nervous glances. No one spoke up. Not one voice challenged the insult. She steadied herself, forcing a polite smile. "I believe I'm in the right place," she replied evenly. But the executive wasn't done. He leaned back in his chair, arms folded, and muttered just loud enough. "Unbelievable. They'll let anyone in here these days." The humiliation burned hotter than fire. This wasn't just disrespect. It was dismissal of her very identity, in front of the very people she had chosen to help lead her bank. Years of building, struggling, and proving herself, all reduced to nothing in the space of 2 sentences. The meeting continued, but the tone had shifted. Every presentation, every discussion felt heavy, like an unspoken judgment hung in the air. Alicia noticed the way some colleagues subtly aligned themselves with the newcomer, nodding at his comments, echoing his points. Others shrank back, unwilling to take a stand. The institution she had built on fairness and respect suddenly revealed itself as fragile, vulnerable to the same prejudice she had fought against all her life. And then came the breaking point. During a critical strategy discussion, Alicia offered an idea, a bold, innovative plan to expand the bank's reach into underserved communities. Before she could finish, the same executive cut her off with a dismissive chuckle. "That's a nice dream," he said, "but maybe you should leave the serious strategies to people who understand finance." The room froze. Her degrees, her experience, her billion-dollar success, dismissed as if she were an outsider trespassing in her own empire. Alicia looked around the table. Some faces showed discomfort, others indifference. Not one person spoke up in her defense. The silence spoke louder than any insult. In that moment, Alicia understood something chilling. Prejudice wasn't always shouted. Sometimes it was whispered, hidden behind polite smiles and professional jargon. And sometimes the deadliest wound came not from enemies, but from colleagues who chose silence over justice. But what the room didn't know, what not a single executive realized, was that Alicia had been underestimated before. And every time she had turned humiliation into fire, the next move she made would not only reclaim her dignity, it would send shockwaves through the very institution she had built. The question was no longer whether she belonged at the table. The question was, how many of them would survive what was about to happen next? The tension in the room reached a breaking point. Alicia sat perfectly still, her hands folded on the table, but inside, her chest tightened with fire. The executive who mocked her leaned forward now, owning the floor with confidence borrowed from arrogance. "Let's be honest," he said. "Our future depends on leadership with experience. We can't risk reckless ideas, no matter how well-intentioned." His pause was deliberate, his smirk cruel. The words hung in the air like poison. And then, slowly, he said what everyone understood but no one had dared to speak aloud. "This institution needs someone credible at the helm. Someone people can actually trust with their money." His eyes locked on hers. The implication was clear. For Alicia, time seemed to stop. She felt the weight of every sacrifice, every sleepless night, every door slammed in her face, every battle fought just to be heard. Now, in the very house she built, her authority was being stripped from her in front of silent witnesses. Not one voice rose to defend her. Not one hand reached to stop the insult. She could hear the pounding of her own heartbeat, louder than the shuffle of papers, louder than the nervous coughs that filled the silence. For a brief, searing moment, the room became a mirror of the larger world she had always known, where a black woman's achievements could be reduced to ash in seconds, dismissed by men who believed they were entitled to power. But Alicia did not look away. She held his gaze with a calmness that unsettled him, because beneath the humiliation, something sharper was taking shape. This was no longer about respect. It was about survival, and about showing every person in that room exactly who held the true power. What happened next would not only decide her place at the table, it would decide the future of the institution itself. Alicia didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. With steady hands, she slid a folder across the table, the kind of folder no one in that room had expected. Inside were documents, proof that weeks earlier, she had quietly restructured the bank's leadership contracts. In one decisive move, she had consolidated her authority, secured the backing of the board, and positioned herself beyond the reach of those who doubted her. The smirks vanished. The man who had mocked her shifted uncomfortably, the color draining from his face. One by one, the executives realized the truth. Alicia was not just the figurehead of this institution. She was its foundation, its architect, the very reason it existed. And in that moment, the power dynamics flipped. But Alicia didn't stop there. Instead of using her victory to silence her critics, she used it to rebuild her institution's soul. Over the following weeks, she implemented sweeping changes, policies designed to hold leaders accountable, diversity initiatives that went beyond tokenism, and safeguards to ensure no one else would ever face the kind of humiliation she endured. What began as an attempt to belittle her became the catalyst for transformation. Yet the deeper truth remained. Alicia's story was not just about one boardroom, one bank, or one woman. It was a reflection of something larger, something millions endure every day. The quiet ways prejudice strips away dignity, the silence that allows injustice to thrive, the resilience required just to be seen. Her victory was powerful, yes, but it came at a cost. And it raised the question that echoes far beyond the walls of her bank. Why must brilliance be proven twice, 3 times, simply because of the color of one's skin? Alicia reclaimed her power. But the question lingers for us all. How many more stories like hers will it take before society finally decides that equality is not earned, but owed?